Yes, team. Hello, and welcome back to the Cool Down Chronicles. So this is a part of my channel which is devoted to like pursuing hard stuff, no matter what age you are, and then using that as a vehicle for sort of lifestyle transformation and living your best life. So it might be triathlon, might be running, 10k, half marathon, whatever it is, ultra marathons, Hyrox, Ironman, all sorts of different stuff. And the Cool Down Chronicles essentially is just me rambling on about something that I might have thought about that week, or even just in this session. And today we're going to be talking about the difference between training and working out. All right. Now I'm going to say up front that this is just my opinion. It's how I think about training versus working out. I'm also not going to be going into any details on training methodologies or training plans or whatever in the coming weeks and months maybe. I'm going to be bringing you all some free training plans, a bit of running, bit of triathlon, bit of Hyrox, that kind of thing, packed full a load of education just to help out anybody who might be out there, might not be able to spring for a coach or whatever it is, and wants to actually get after their goals in a big way. But more on that later, right? What this is going to be about is about training versus working out. And the first thing that I'm going to be talking about is goal setting, right? When you are working out, the goal usually is just to feel a bit better, right? It might be you might want to lose a little bit of weight, you might want to feel better, and that is pretty much the goal, right? And I'll be really clear and upfront. There is nothing wrong with that at all, right? I went for years dipping in and out of training versus working out, right? Nothing wrong with it whatsoever. But the difference between that and training, I think, is when your goals become tangible. You want to achieve a specific thing. Now, that can be a body composition. It could be an event to completion, an event for a particular time, a personal best. But there's a tangible thing. And the reason why I think that's important is that when you set your goals to be a tangible outcome, you can mark progress. You can see yourself moving closer and closer towards that goal. And where that comes in where that has a relationship with training is that your training plan, and we'll come on to that and why it's good to have a plan. Your training plan can then be built around that goal. Not necessarily, if you want to run a fast 5k, you don't just go out and just keep running best effort 5ks, right? There's strength involved, there's resilience, we can incorporate plyometrics, we can incorporate slow running, fast running, interval training, cycling, all sorts of different things to bring about that result. But it's done in a structured manner, and you can track your progress towards something because it's tangible. So that's the first thing, goals. The second thing becomes about scheduling. Workouts tend to be whenever you can fit them in. It's about, I'll get to the gym after work, or I'll get to the gym before work, I'll get to the gym at lunchtime if I can make it. And then something happens and something gets in the way and you don't necessarily do that. But that's okay because you're working out in order to just feel better, right? And so every time you do make a gym session, you feel better, and therefore that counts. And that's great, that is absolutely brilliant. But when it comes to training, because the goals are tangible, because you are progressing in a methodical and sort of structured way, you should start to fit your life around your training. It's not just, I'll fit training in around my life, right? And it's such a common misnomer when it comes to training. Yes, okay, we need to fall back on our ability to just get shit done when things go wrong, but We can't just do that all the time, because that will lead to missed sessions, and you're leaving progress on the table. So your schedule needs to make sure that your life fits around your training, right? And we start to schedule those things. It's like there's an episode in Friends where someone tells Joey that they don't have a TV, and he says, "What? Well, what's all your furniture pointed at?" And that, to me, is that's life for me. All my life, my nutrition, the way that I go about my schedule, all of it is pointed towards getting these sessions done, getting my training done, because I've got big goals. You know, this year alone, I've got, I mean, it's pretty ridiculous. I've got at least 2 Hyrox, 2 70.3 Ironmans, 2 full Ironmans, 2 backyard ultras, and a 100 kilometer team ultra marathon as well. I'm sure I'll fit more in, but you know, that's me for now. So that's sort of scheduling. The third is when we think about food and nutrition. Like, when you're just working out, you eat what you like, when you like, and there might be some semblance of structure and organization, and that's totally cool. There might be some semblance of that. But when you're training, nutrition isn't just because you like the taste of it and it's social and all of that. Food becomes fuel. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to relentlessly just be super, super boring and only eat things and think of it just as, well, it's just fuel, I don't need it to taste good or whatever, right? But it is fuel. And that, to me, is about intention. It's about understanding what your body is going to need for that day, for that week. It's about understanding what your body is going to need for that session, right? We all will have our go-to workout snacks. It might be, you know, Rice Krispie square or 2 and a banana. That's my personal favorite. But also, like, your pre-workout nutrition is not just what you have the 30 to 60 minutes before your session. It's what you have in the whole day leading up to it, the day before that, right? All of that counts. So the difference between training and working out when it comes to food is that we tend to think about food as fuel, and that is about intention, understanding what we need to put into our body. The fourth thing is a bit of fatigue acceptance, right? If we are just working out, the moment you get tired, you will think, oh, I'm overdoing it. I'm just going to step back. I'll take a day off and everything will be fine. And you are absolutely right. You are 100% right. Like, because the goal is to feel good, you can rest up. You can go at it another day, no problem. When you're training, you're not only training your physical body, but you're also training your mind. And so understanding that fatigue is just a part of life, right? I am tired all the time. I get lots of sleep, but I am tired all the time. I never feel fresh coming into a session. And it might go well, it might not necessarily go well, but I'm putting a lot of volume, I'm putting a lot of load through my body. And you can't just expect, right, if you're training for something that actually matters with a structured plan, you can't just expect that you're going to be fresh all the time, right? That's not how it works. So just understanding that fatigue and being tired is just a part of it. Not only are you training your mind to do the thing tired, okay, so therefore that is going to help with consistency, but you are also training your body that in the middle of a race, some kind of endurance race, even if it's not an endurance race, you know, whatever you are doing, you are going to get tired. And if you haven't trained when you are tired, your body is not going to know what that feels like, and so you're not going to be able to press on. The next thing, now this is particularly pertinent when it comes to any kind of endurance training, okay? So if we're talking triathlon, if we're talking running, marathon running, ultra marathon running, that is, what's going on there? We're talking about all of those sort of endurance events, and that is that you need to get comfortable with being bored. You need to get comfortable with being bored, right? Because you are going to be sat on the turbo trainer in the winter months for hours on end. You are going to be running particularly in the event when you're not necessarily allowed headphones or anything, like in an Ironman, you're going to be running without music, you know, without any external stimulus. So you need to get comfortable with being bored. When you're working out, you can do new shit all the time. Oh, I fancy a bit of this, I fancy a bit of that. There's always an external stimulus to keep you interested. When you're training, particularly for endurance events, the boring shit done well over and over and over again, with no one necessarily checking in on you every single day just to check that you've done that 2-hour session, just to check that you did your run, right? Sometimes it is absolutely excruciatingly boring, but that's what training is. Okay, it's not necessarily, particularly for endurance events, it's not necessarily sexy, right? So the difference between training and working out when it comes to being bored, if you're training for something that's endurance based, get used to being bored and be comfortable with it. And then the last thing is, if you train enough, and by that I mean intentionally train, right? If you intentionally get after a goal, and you start to see that progress, your why, your reason for doing it starts to shift, right? I speak to people every single week who keep saying, oh, I've got a Hyrox coming up, oh, I've got a 10K coming up. And then I ask them about their training and they go, oh yeah, I just go down my local Hyrox gym, or, you know, I'm just in with a running club and we go running every couple of days. And there's not necessarily any purpose. They're just doing stuff, right? And that stuff is moving the needle forward. Fine, and that's brilliant, right? And I commend absolutely anybody who is getting after anything. But when it comes to training, when you put in a bit of purpose, when you put in a bit of intention, when you build your efforts over the weeks and over the months, your why starts to shift. Right? And it starts to shift away from, I'm just going to turn up to this race and get round and it'll be fun, to, I want to be the best version of myself on race day as possible. And that is fundamentally what I think the difference between training and working out is. When you train with purpose, with a plan, and you start to point bits of your life at your training, you are going to start to change your identity away from the guy who just turns up and completes the thing to someone who absolutely wants to be the best version of themselves. And that means you will then start showing up in the rest of your life as your best version. You'll show up better for your kids, your partner, your friends, your family, your work. When you start to train and take absolute ownership of the process, and you start to physically invest in yourself, your why for being starts to shift and you just become the best version. And I truly, truly believe that. So there we go. There are my thoughts on training versus working out. As I say, just my opinion. You know, you can listen, you can not. I'm not your dad. Thanks very much for tuning in. Fucking hell, you can tell how old I am. Tuning in for this episode of the Cool Down Chronicles. I will see you next time. Oh, and you know, do the like, subscribe, all of that guff, and maybe have a look at what else is on the channel. You know what to do. Right, where's this?